ask will include how even is the distribution of wealth and development among countries of the Commonwealth, and what are the major takeaways for us as a country, Nigeria, at Kigali 2022?
Good questions, really. We'll have a panel of guests that will speak to the resolutions of Chogum 2022 on today's episode of Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. Thank you for joining us. I am Yusuf Nadabusman.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join Nadabo to also welcome you to the program. We are reaching you from our headquarters studios here in Abuja, the nation's lovely capital. Now, in the course of the program, we have our complimentary segments, and those will include business and newspaper review and others. For now, we have the highlights of the morning news with Tessie Omeri. Good morning, Tessie.
Hello, good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Nadabo. Good morning, Nigerians, and here is the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari is back in Abuja after a very successful outing at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kigali, Rwanda. The president was received on arrival at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport by his Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, FCT Minister Mohammed Musa Bello, Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of Finance and Administration, Sanusi Lemu, and other top government officials. While in Kigali, President Buhari joined 53 other leaders to reaffirm their commitment to delivering a common future for member states underpinned by sustainability, peace, and prosperity. This is aimed at improving the lives of 2.5 billion people they represent across the Commonwealth. President Buhari, who attended the meeting for the last time as head of state, assured the Commonwealth leaders of his commitment to ensuring peaceful elections next year, as well as an orderly change of government. President Muhammadu Buhari says his administration is determined to work with Nigerians both at home and abroad towards developing the economy and creating a productive and peaceful nation that caters to the needs of its citizens. The president spoke at a town hall meeting with Nigerians in the diaspora on the margins of the 26th Commonwealth Head of State Government meeting just ended in Kigali, Rwanda.
Now being graduates, we are looking forward to use the skills we've gotten and then bring it down to my country to improve the technology sphere.
And we are not just people who are intellectuals, but we also have leadership skills to lead youths to be better at whatever they do.
You are the type of Nigerian that I like to see. God gave you this brains, He gave you the courage to use it, He gave you the mind to be so sensible. I congratulate you for being successful, and you are making us very proud. I'm very, very pleased to meet you.
Ondo State Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu has signed an executive order for the installation and use of closed-circuit television CCTV devices in all public and private institutions in the state. A statement signed by the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Richard Olatunde, says this becomes necessary as additional measures to ensure security of lives and property in all public and private institutions. The order will be enforced at all religious places of worship, financial institutions, event centers, supermarkets, educational institutions, hotels, health centers, eateries, vehicular parks, and other places regularly used by the public, while violators of the order will be prosecuted in accordance with Section 203 of the Criminal Code laws of Ondo State. And the Nigerian Immigration Service has reaffirmed that Mr. David Uku Nwamini, who is at the center of a case of alleged organ harvesting in the UK against the former Deputy President of the Senate, Ike Ekweremadu, and his wife applied and paid for the enhanced e-passport using the NIS portal, after which he approached the Gwagwalada Passport Office, FCT Abuja, on November 2nd, 2021 for his interview. A statement signed by the Acting Controller General of Immigration, Issa Jerry Idris, notes that in support of his application, Mr. Nwamini presented all the necessary documents required, including his birth certificate issued by National Population Commission (NPC), showing 12th October 2000 as his date of birth, his national identity number name issued by NIMC, corroborating the date of birth, a certificate of origin issued by Ebonyi State Government, Liaison Office, Abuja, and a guarantor's form duly signed. The acting CGI reaffirms that in view of the records available to the service, the general public may wish to be informed that the date of birth or any other information on any Nigerian passport is printed on the document only after a thorough vetting process that involves both the applicant's reader documents and the person. Mr. Nwamini's case, he says, was not an exception, contrary to rumors making the rounds. The 2022 Civil Service Week has been rounded off with an interdenominational Thanksgiving service in Abuja, in line with the scripture which stipulates that in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Jesus Christ concerning you. This scripture from the Bible propels the Nigerian civil servants led by the head of the civil service of the Federation to appear in his presence with praise.
God expects us to be productive as a people, as a nation, as a church. And we know that Nigeria also as a nation, we are trusting that we will be more productive.
God has been very, very good to us, and so we have to give him thanks. The Civil Service Week also is another reason to give thanks to God, because all the programs went very, very smoothly.
Meanwhile, Nigerians, particularly the youth, have been advised not to stay aloof during the electoral process, but show patriotism and commitment to their civic responsibilities. This is coming amidst growing advocacy for Nigerians to take advantage of the continuous voter registration exercise to obtain their permanent voter's card.
To vote is your right. Go and be prepared to vote. Votes will be counted. We must vote our consciences. We must vote for the people we believe can lead Nigeria to the next level.
The youth should have a wall of defense around them. Don't let your wall of defense be breached. It can be done by sinful tendencies.
In view of the additional number of Nigerian pilgrims that have arrived Saudi Arabia ahead of the 2022 Hajj, where the Saudi Kingdom is to host 1 million pilgrims across the globe, the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, has set up health facilities in Medina to address health challenges that might emanate.
On the average, we receive between 50 to 100 pilgrims every day in these our clinics. And of course, we expect that it's going to increase within the next 1 week due to the rapid influx of pilgrims.
And that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Ndabo and Kingsley after this break. Thanks for watching.
Wake up the champion in your child. Give them energy to go further. Milo Active Go and the natural goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa helps wake up the champion in your child.
My son has always dreamt of being in the spotlight. That's why I give him Born Vita for everyday vitality that gives him the strength to pursue his dreams. Born Vita, strength to dream.
Ajaye go gym. You want go shake your body. Instead they make it calm down. If the pump say you sabi. You want to grow 6 packs in a day. I beg you not to pass the power. You want to show yourself.
Whatever your size, find it with the new Editorial data plans. Dial *141# now to get the plan that suits you. Editorial, the smartphone network.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's time for business news, and here is our correspondent, Comfort Amodu.
The federal government has continued to evolve ways to boost production from oil fields to augment state finances and increase local participation in the oil sector, which provides the bulk of Nigerians' foreign exchange and export. To this end, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission will this week issue prospecting licenses to companies that want rights to develop marginal oil fields for local companies. Benga Komolafe, head of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, in a statement noted that issuing licenses is one of the most critical tasks for the agency, established last year when Nigeria passed the new petroleum law, a few years after authorities sought bids for the oil blocks. Meanwhile, G7 negotiators have put Russia oil price cap on the agenda for leaders to deliberate on at the summit in Germany, while the US, UK, Japan and Canada plan to announce a ban on new gold imports from Russia during a summit of Group of 7 leaders that is underway. Underpinned by London's central role in the gold trade, the UK government said in a statement that the proposed measure will have global impact, shorten the commodity out of formal international markets, and will scuttle President Vladimir Putin's ability to raise funds. With business news, Comfort Amodu.
Thanks, Comfort, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next for us now is Newspaper Review. That's right. As usual, our regular newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoyebe, is right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kingsley. Good morning.
I hope you had a pleasant weekend.
Yes, the weekend was quite relaxing.
Relaxing. Temperatures very tolerable.
Yes, the rains very moderate. In fact, you get a picture as if you are in Port Harcourt or Warri, where you have this mild rain that prevails throughout the day.
Yes, right.
This type of rain is very usual in Abuja in August.
Yes,
the period they call the August break, but this time it's coming a little bit early.
Early, yes.
I don't know what that portends anyway.
But it's pleasant regardless.
Yes, very clement weather, and but we don't know what the implication is for the farmers who depend on sustainable rain to give us good harvest. Good morning,
rain-fed agriculture.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, so let's see how it goes in terms of the weather. But let's take a look at the front pages of the two newspapers we have with us this morning. Beginning with the Punch, and quite a potpourri of stories there. Above the nameplate, federal government spends 1.234 trillion naira monthly as fuel subsidy hits 600 naira a litre. That's according to operators. If the federal government is spending 1.243 trillion naira monthly, that would appear to be an exaggeration. mean, where will you get that kind of money from?
Monthly.
Monthly, yes. I think, what is the size of the federal government's budget? I think maybe this is according to operators. These are not numbers coming from the Ministry of Finance or even the central bank. So we'll see. But details of that story you find on page 29. Self-defense, firearm ban still in force. CP, that should be tells rather than wants. Tells Matawale. There's a story yesterday about the Zamfara state government directing citizens to arm themselves against bandits, but of course to obtain licenses from the Commissioner of Police. So the Commissioner of Police now said the ban on firearms is still in force. Commission shortlist 29 for Supreme Court job, rejects SANS. Immigration dismisses organ donors underage claim. Ebonyi and Dixon back Ekweremadu. Fuel shortage and inflation will weaken Nigeria's economic growth. That's according to the World Bank. Telecom firms' operating costs rise by 265 billion naira. That's according to a report by NCC. That's the Communications Commission. The kicker for the lead story says running mate. Northwest and Northeast fight over slot. And I'm still searching, says Tinubu. I'm still searching. Bongo Sikwe should be invited. I'm sure that was a hit song in the late 1970s.
Yeah,
Bongo Sikwe. Why is he now, by the way?
He's in Otopo.
He's still in Otopo.
Yes. He just clocked 82 recently, I guess, on Tuesday.
Okay, great voice. I think the last I read it was when he turned 70, I believe. That was a while ago. So Tinubu says he's still searching. We say that Bongo Sikwe might be of her. But more seriously now, 3 riders to that headline. APC will consider zones that will produce highest votes. That's according to the campaign DG. Northwest, Northeast governors negotiating, not fighting. That's according to the APC Northwest chair. Tinubu's certificate controversy resurfaces, and ex-governor supporters tackle critics. Kebbi lifts Hajj pilgrims, and governor seeks prayer to end insecurity. NAFDAC workers continue strike, fault management on welfare. He was okay before suicide, says Abuja photographer's brother. Adamawa, Oyo, and 14 others get 22.79 billion naira to enroll out-of-school children. HIV. Taraba conducts mass testing. 77 test positive. Gunmen kill Edo and Kaduna Catholic priests and 2 others. Thousands flee as bandits raid Zamfara community. Kill 1. Madabo.
Okay, thank you, Kinsley. Let's take a look at the Nation newspaper this morning, this very beautiful Monday. On the Nation newspaper, we have the following stories. Starting from the top of the page, we have 3 good stories there. Which is on page 7, it starts or it goes this way. As we strike, Buhari to decide on UTAS UTAS for varsity teachers. Buhari will decide on that for varsity teachers. And then the details of that is on page 7, that is. And then on page 5, we have CJN proposes 29 justices for Supreme Court. And then SANS shunned, NBA kicks. On page 8, we have 200,000 Northeast IDPs yet to be repatriated. And on page 7, Florida attacks Obi, says Abba is third force. Now moving down the page right under the masthead, we have these 2 stories. One is on page 2 that says Catholic priest dies in kidnapper's custody. And on page 37, Buhari back from Kigali. That's after the Chogun meeting. The big story on the Nation newspaper this morning is governors take stern steps to battle worsening insecurity. That's President Tinubu, Oshoba, others eulogize Bajabi and Lila, a book presentation. This on page 3. Then the big story is going to be, or rather it is really the governors take stern steps to battle worsening insecurity. It has the following riders, and these include Mutawali asks residents to buy guns, OKs shoot on site for motorcycles, as read by either Kinsley here on the The newspaper, we have the second rider, marking day to hire 500 more for Amotekun. Ondo Assembly to tighten Amotekun law after Akere Dolu's compulsory CCTV order. And the final rider here is Uzodinma issues ultimatum to bandits. Details of all this can be gotten on page 6. Now moving down, we have this story on Dangote shops for additional 300 billion naira to finance refinery. Shops for additional 300 billion naira to finance refinery. Details on page 6. And still on page 6, UTM offshore Afreximbank signed project preparation facility financing deal. UTM offshore Afreximbank signed project preparation facility financing deal in a boost for Nigeria's first FLNG project. Details of that on page 6. Page 6 is really loaded with good stories there on the Nation newspaper. Finally, at the foot of the page, these stories are the missing ex-Nigerian diplomat found dead, I must say. That is found here is found dead in the United States. The details on page 37. Then NAFDAC alerts to toxic lotion on page 5. And these are the main stories or the lead stories or the stories on the Nation newspaper this morning. Bayo?
Thank you, Visu. Well, let's look at the concerns raised in Zamfara and Benue, where the chief executives of those states have called on citizens to get arms and arm themselves to defend themselves against criminals that are threatening their lives. The leadership reports that Zamfara state government says that it is ready to facilitate the seeking of arms to facilitate citizens who are interested to acquire arms to defend themselves. The statement by the Commissioner of Information, Ibrahim Dosara, said that the Commissioner of Police has been directed to issue licenses to persons who are eligible and are prepared to bear arms. And the indications are that first, they are to defend themselves against bandits. Secondly, government has also concluded arrangements to distribute 500 forms to each of the 19 emirates for those who are willing to obtain arms for the purposes of defending themselves. The government has also asked the State Assembly to pass what is described as information bill before to enable this carry effect. The state government has ordered the recruitment of 200 community protection guards. This will bring the community protection guards to 500 in each of the 19 emirate councils and across in Benue State too.
But before you get down to that, let's interrogate this a little bit.
Yes.
I don't think would there be anything different from this acquiring of arms. Normally it has been in the laws that one should not have or own an arm or ammunition or whatever it is without a license. That has been there. Yes. Now, what's so different about this thing this time around? I mean, people have been having that, and a lot of people have been, having arms and firearms with them with license really provided by the police. Is it the number of those who are going to be involved, or rather those who are going to have it now? Given also the fact that the state government wants to take it to the House of Assembly for legislation on that. And
before now, there is a very strict regulation regarding possession of firearms. It's very strict, and you go through a very strict procedure before you are granted license. But before the advent of the increase of banditry, citizens who legitimately had firearms were asked to surrender them. And it was across many states of the Federation. Again, it was to mop up arms in the hands of citizens. But with the increase,
there was no law to that effect at that time.
But with the increase in banditry now, the frustration in Zamfara and Benue State, where the chief executives are now calling on citizens to pick up arms and defend themselves.
Well, I think it's an interesting development.
It is, really.
The questions that Nadabo raised are pertinent, and the perspective is also provided, including your good self bio. Those perspectives are interesting.
Yes.
Now, let's get it clear. Firearms is controlled by the federal government. That's why you have the Firearms Act. And lately, I think the National Assembly was seeking either an amendment to the Firearms Act or repeal and then reenactment of the Firearms Act. In sum, there is nothing really new about what the state government has said in the latest request to citizens to arm themselves. Now, it is the governor is not saying, or the state government is not saying, go and pick up arms anywhere and anyhow you can find it. It says, look, approach the commissioner of police and attempt or strive to obtain a license for your firearms, which means if you are qualified to possess the firearms, then the commissioner of police will issue a license to you. And there are categories of firearms anyway that can be licensed, even though we know that persons who in the past applied for, say, day guns or hunting guns, turned out to be in possession of SLRs, that's self-loading rifles, your automatic weapons, sometimes graduating up to AK-47. But here the Commissioner of Police is saying already that, look, the ban on licensing new firearms is still in force. But the critical issue, I mean, this is like a government that is having its back to the wall. Every time you have bandits and kidnappers in possession of illicit weapons, and the citizens themselves are fleeing their communities, how do they defend themselves? I think it's a critical question that we have to resolve. But we also have to be careful. Because if you say people should go and get firearms and you may have 1,000 firearms in that state, what then happens if there is misuse?
Carefully. Being careful is just the word here, because when we look even across the shores of Nigeria, in far away United States, they are now battling with that.
That's right.
They're trying to see the fact that there is no reason for people to have arms as, at will, simply because they have the license, because of the havoc this creates. And then if the government will really go to this extent and trying to even encourage, citizens to, have firearms, it seems we're heading towards a situation where everybody can just have a firearm to protect himself. And it seems there's no law there for the law enforcement agencies are becoming weaker or get weaker.
In fact, in the case of Zamfara, the emphasis is even towards farmers acquiring arms so that they can go to their farm and farm without being harassed by bandits. But some lawyers have already indicated that there is a danger signal here, that it is illegal for anybody to possess arms without getting the appropriate authorization. And they also emphasize the danger in having indiscriminate arms in the hands of citizens. The dilemma now is this. You have bandits.
Catch-22.
Yes.
Catch-22, really, that's just it.
Catch-22.
Yeah.
But there is a critical element that the Zamfara state governor also raised. Namely, you have bandits or kidnappers or terrorists who are imposing fines and levies on citizens. You go to a community, say your levies are imposed on you, almost like behaving almost like tax authorities. That is to say, you are having a parallel government. How do you deal with that? Earlier, we had heard reports of some of these terrorists or bandits demanding what we may call protection fees. That's to say, before you go to farm, that's to say you want to cultivate your crops, you pay a certain amount. When it is time for you to harvest, you also pay another protection fee. Otherwise, they will burn down your farms, as they did in Niger.
The produce too.
Your produce, as they did in Niger. So, what should be the response of the state? In this case, I use the state capital S, that's to say the Nigerian government. What should be the response to instances of this nature? How do you mop up these terrorists and bandits so that citizens can freely undertake their economic activities? I think that's the situation there. And where we do hear reports of what the security forces are doing, but for the state government to have come up with this, and they set up a number of committees, security committee, it just tells you that things aren't just well with Zamfara. We want to talk about Benue State, Bayo.
Benue State, it is similar to Governor Samuel Otom. Also, it's happening on the fact that citizens may now have to pick up arms to defend themselves because apparently they have been overwhelmed. They cannot handle. The security agencies are not able to protect them against bandits who are killing. In fact, Governor Otum cited that in just 1 week, about 40 persons were killed in the local government very close to his area in Guma. About 40 persons were killed, and out of frustration, he's saying that citizens may now have to bear arms. Now, that's on the political scene. The presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, the flag bearer, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has indicated yesterday, while making remarks at the birthday of the speaker, that he's still looking out for his running mate.
They're still searching. Really.
Yes, still searching for.
That's why we're inviting Bongo Sikwe.
But the Independent National Electoral Commission has given indication that political parties cannot substitute their nominated candidate except under two conditions. One is if the candidate nominated dies. The second is if the nominated candidate withdraws from the race. And when he withdraws, it is not just withdrawal. That withdrawal must be accompanied by a letter written by the nominated candidate and also to the political party supported with an affidavit.
Thank you so much, Bayo. We're running short of time, really. I've just got to call it quits on this segment here. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Good Morning Nigeria. We'll be back in a moment. Stay back.
Hello, everyone. Hope you people have linked your NIN now. Don't be like my son Oshegun, who had to wait for his land to be disconnected.
Yes, mommy, but I am now reconnected. Yes. I went to Editorial shop, enrolled for my NIN, and re-registered my line. Simple and short, no stress. It didn't end there. Airtel rewarded me with a no-vex bonus of 20,000 naira free airtime and data to access all my social media accounts. If you already have NIN, all you need to do is dial *121# or visit the Airtel website to get link out. Get on it.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
You clean your teeth every morning, but that fresh breath feeling just doesn't last. The answer? Easy. You keep your teeth strong and healthy and give your mouth long-lasting fresh breath with new Oral-B 2-in-1 toothpaste. It helps strengthen your teeth and gives you long-lasting fresh breath.
So fresh, feel fresh, and feel fresh.
Stay strong, stay fresh. New Oral-B toothpaste for strong teeth and long-lasting fresh breath.
Do you run a breast or cervical cancer service? Are you a private or public laboratory, clinic or hospital that offer any of breast imaging, cervical cancer screening, HPV vaccination, or other breast or cervical cancer services? Is your service a primary, secondary, or tertiary center located in any part of Nigeria, no matter how remotely located it is? If yes, to any of these questions, then subscribe to the OCI Foundation's Save a Breast app and become accessible and visible to millions of Nigerians. It is all for free. To subscribe, just type the Save a Breast application form on Google or go to the OCI Foundation's page on www.ocifoundation.org and search for Save a Breast application form. Complete the form and submit. And let millions of Nigerians patronize you, all for free. Become part of the OCI Foundation's quest to tackle breast and cervical cancers in Nigeria. And join us to rise by lifting others.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who is a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation on the resolutions of Chogum 2022, let's take this background report by correspondent Abdusalam Jibril.
For 5 days, leaders, diplomats, youths, and development experts, among others, assembled in Kigali, the Rwandan capital, venue of the 26th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting Chogum 2022, to participate in discussions that focused on the progress and prosperity of the more than 2 billion people living in independent countries in Africa, Asia, the Americas, Europe, and the Pacific that make up the Commonwealth. The meeting was originally scheduled for June 2020, but was postponed twice due to the COVID-19 pandemic, with the theme Delivering a Common Future, Connecting, Innovating, Transforming. Heads of government reaffirmed their commitment to uphold the Commonwealth Charter, which focuses on democracy, human rights, the rule of law, as well as economic opportunities and sustainable development. A major feature of the summit was the admission of Gabon and Togo, two former French colonies. Though the Commonwealth's membership had historically been colonies of the British Empire, it has since expanded, devoid of British colonial roots. President Muhammadu Buhari, on the sidelines of the summit, held bilateral meetings with UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, as well as the Prime Minister of Jamaica, and the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Baroness Patricia Scotland. The Nigerian president also visited the Kigali Genocide Memorial and met with some Nigerians living in Rwanda. At the end of the summit, leaders underscored the importance of connecting, innovating, and transforming in order to facilitate a full recovery by member states from the COVID-19 pandemic. They also resolved to respond to conflicts and crises and prosperity to improve the lives of all the people of the Commonwealth. As leaders and participants at the summit depart Kigali, a major mystery still lingers as analysts still ask why a group of nations that struggle to win their independence from the United Kingdom choose to reconstitute themselves in an organization that the British exerts a certain level of influence. Another burning question is how accessible is the wealth in the Commonwealth, bearing in mind the uneven development and wealth distribution among member states. What benefits have Nigeria enjoyed since becoming a member in 1960? With Brexit now official, shouldn't the UK's post-European Union future lie in deepening trade and immigration with the Commonwealth? These issues will feature prominently as guests on the program speak to issues on the just concluded Chogum 2022 shortly.
Thank you very much, Abdusalam Jibril, for that background. With us in the studios now to discuss issues arising from Chogum 2022, would like to welcome the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Mr. Femi Additional, who himself was also at Kigali. Femi, delighted to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
Okay.
We have
two other guests.
There are two other guests here. One is yet to be around here yet, but let's look at the two. Let's welcome the two other guests, I must say, who are already here with us. They are joining us via Zoom, and both are from the United Kingdom. And then the first is Tunji Ishola, Nigeria's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, Tunji.
Good morning. Nice for having me, please.
I also have Dr. Osahon Enabulele, President, Commonwealth Medical Association. He is also the President-elect, World Medical Association, and we understand he participated in the sessions of the Chogun People's Forum. Welcome to Good Morning, Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. Glad to be here. God bless us all. Thank you.
Amen.
All right. Once again, gentlemen, it's our delight to have you with us on this morning as we review the outcome of Chogum 2022. Let's begin with Femi Adesina, who, as I said earlier, was at Chogum. And he had, of course, been with the president on several of his foreign outings, as well as attending summits and heads of government meetings. Femi Adesina, tell us, what was unique about Chogum 2022?
Well, I'll say everything. It was to have held in 2020. COVID didn't allow it. It was postponed twice. And now it's finally came up in serene Kigali. What has become of Kigali and Rwanda, I think, is amazing. This was a country that nearly died in 1994 when the genocide came. But you hardly see the scars again, except maybe when you visit the memorial institutions they set up. But by and large, I would say Rwanda has emerged from the ashes of its destruction. And then the summit held in an ambience that was quite convivial. It was congenial, and I'm sure that all those that came, the leaders, members of the delegation, had and will have good memory of Kigali. So I believe that it was a very good summit. It was rather packed. In fact, I was pitying our president because typical of him, he attends every session that he should attend. When you tell him, well, will you skip this? He said, that's why we are here. And it was really exacting. He attended every session and we returned yesterday. It was an outing worth his while.
We will further interrogate the outing, how worthwhile it was. Let's hear from, Dr. Osahon Enabulele, President, Commonwealth Medical Association. Let me throw it back to you. How unique was it, Kigali 2022, Chogum 2022, most especially talking about your field of specialization, the medics?
So I didn't get it clearly. What is the question?
I say, how unique was it, Kigali 2022, talking about your field of specialization, most especially the medics?
Okay, thank you very much. Kigali was good. Kigali was great. And I want to support the views of distinguished Femi Adesina that Kigali has been, we saw a very transformed country in terms of the city center, Kigali. But by and large, in terms of the conversations that took place in Kigali, I think it was very relieving that after the absence due to COVID pandemic, people were able to gather again to physically interact, exchange ideas, and see how they can move the whole conversations forward, particularly in terms of the health system reordering, because it was clearly admitted that a lot still needs to be done to advance the fortunes of the healthcare system, bearing in mind the very critical role health plays in the life of the people in terms of promoting their well-being, their productivity, and of course, the overall economy of countries. It was also admitted that beyond talk about talks, it's time now for us to really begin to walk the talk, because it's not enough to sit around tables, engage in conversations, but the critical element is how far have we gone? And so beyond the declarations and statements that have been reached, even in terms of the health system agenda, we were hoping that we can begin to see more, on the ground in terms of implementing, whatever resolutions have been taken. By and large, in terms of the health sector, the general agreement is that a lot still needs to be done by governments in the Commonwealth to strengthen health systems in terms of building health system resilience, learning from the experience of the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly leveraging on primary health care, and of course, ensuring that the people are also carried along, because again, the Commonwealth is about the people. It's not just about the government. If you look at the Commonwealth Charter, it starts with we the people. And the people is made up of both the government and the civil society, the people, the citizens of the Commonwealth. So it's very relieving that governments have come again to give an affirmation to some of those declarations that have even been made in the past. But what we are more concerned about now is the future. How do we connect with the future in terms of getting some of these statements on the paper, on the communique, for instance, into some affirmative actions? So I want to stop there for now, but to say that we hope that the declarations are going to be followed through to advance the whole concept of universal health coverage, increasing access to health care, to Commonwealth citizens, and of course strengthening the health workforce. Indeed, the Commonwealth Medical Association had a session of human resource for health, particularly from low middle income countries to high income countries, is expanding health inequality and of course preventing countries in the low middle and income countries from advancing anywhere towards the attainment of universal health coverage. So I'm glad that even the heads of government reaffirmed their commitment to the World Health Organization Global Code, global code of practice in terms of recruitment, international recruitment of human resource for health. So that to us was a major vantage point, and we're happy that we had that session, and of course it was part of the resolutions reached by the heads of government. I would like to stop there for now. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Usaho and Abulele, for your opening comments. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's bring in now Ambassador Tunji Ishola, who's Nigeria's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. Ambassador Ishola, well, what was your sense at the summit, if you may, which is CHOGM, that's Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting? I mean, the leaders who gathered in Kigali represent about 1/3 of the world's population. The summit get the sense of the size of the world's population that they represent, and therefore also the issues that concern these peoples, rich, not so rich, and very poor.
Thank you very much. Let me start from the premise of the fact that Kigali 2022, otherwise known as CHOGM 2022, is quite interesting in many respects. The most critical issue at Kigali was building a consensus on the future of the Secretary General of the organization. And the 54 heads were able to build a consensus by asking the Secretary General to continue for the next 2 years. That was a very major decision, given the fact that issues of Commonwealth Secretary General, according to Commonwealth Convention, is restricted to heads of states only, and it can only be represented by Minister of Foreign Affairs, no more. So it was a critical decision taken, and I want to seize the opportunity to salute all the heads for building a consensus on that, because it was a contentious issue before the Commonwealth. That's number one. Number two, like Femi earlier said, CHOGM was supposed to have taken place 2 years ago. And I want to believe the fact that you are even sitting down together talking about a problem in itself is way out of the solution, because sometimes a problem identified is half solved. And to get heads coming together to discuss these issues, to me, it's something that is quite important. And I must say that the way the heads really related in Kigali really gave me hope for the world. The 2.1 billion people in Commonwealth, as represented by many head of states that were there, one has the belief that the Commonwealth that we expect in the next 2 years and beyond will be different from where we are. There's no doubt that being a multilateral organization that is anchored largely on British colonies, we need to rejig the Commonwealth itself And I'm sure that the next 2 years, the Commonwealth Secretary General will be apprised of the need to rejig the machinery of the Commonwealth. Having said that, it's important to know that the Commonwealth itself, has so many machinery within which to execute its program. I'm aware that about 87 NGO, intergovernmental organizations, and civil society organizations collaborate and register under Commonwealth, and they were all in Kigali. It's also important to note that the Queen, as represented by His Royal Highness Prince of Wales, was also on ground, providing some insights into some of the challenges, particularly on the issue of climate change. I was a keynote speaker in one of the events whereby we reiterated the need to focus on COP26. And I left that forum with one Nigerian talk that we should do. We had enough of talk, and now it's time to move to talk and do. And everybody agreed with that process, because the issue of climate change cannot be handled by government alone. It has to be a synergy between the government, as related the public sector, and industries and the private sector, and even the society organizations. And the commitments and targets must be measurable, precise, measurable, realistic, and in addition, also canvass the need to always do a periodic evaluation of various commitments of countries, and in addition, take time to really know, to do a kind of assessment. So it's not a question like Dr. Enabu Lele said. It's not a question of having an MOU that will end up gathering dust in the shelves. And I'm sure that when we go to Egypt for the COP27, the emphasis will be placed on this. In addition, I want to really seize the opportunity to appreciate the commitment of President Buhari to the Commonwealth. For 5 days, he was in Kigali. I'm aware that some head of states just spent 2 days, 1 day, and left, but he was there. And almost many notable countries like Mr. Femi Adesina can confirm, sought bilateral relations. We are not even able to take them all at the end of the day. And in addition, I also want to seize the opportunity to appreciate his commitment towards making sure that Nigeria's contribution to Commonwealth was actualized, because at this time last year, we were so much indebted to Commonwealth. And I took it upon myself that it will not be good for us to go to Kigali and be among better nations. But whatever efforts I've made for his commitment, he went extra way to make sure that we really pay our obligation to Commonwealth. As at now, we are one of the 8 largest contributors to Commonwealth, and that has given us a seat on the executive board of Commonwealth Board of Governors, whereby Nigeria's needs will be articulated and pursued, because even the Commonwealth is a multilateral organization, but my primary duty in UK here is to promote Nigeria interest. So aside from this, we have so many forums: People's Forum, Commonwealth Business Forum, Commonwealth Youth Forum, and Commonwealth Women Forum. And these forums are really active. The way I see Commonwealth is an organization that's run more or less on self-relations. And people come together naturally, given what binds us together. We speak the same language. And it's also important to emphasize that, like Dr. Enablele said, a lot of the countries in Commonwealth falls into the tropical region. So we have a common problem in malaria and other tropical diseases in the Commonwealth. But it's also important to emphasize.
I'm not cutting you short anyway, but let's let's, we'll interrogate these issues later in the program. We'll have some more, at least an hour ahead, but I will look at this and explain them much broader later on. In the meantime, let's welcome, Nigeria's former High Commissioner to Pakistan, Ambassador Dauda Danladi. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's get your opening shots on this assessment as we take a look at 2022 Shogun and the resolutions there and what the takeaways were. But before then, as you do that, give us what you felt was somewhat a unique thing about this 26th, meeting of, heads of government in Commonwealth, and of course, against the background of the fact that they've been meeting quite okay, and one, just like the background that we had asked, countries coming together to, talk more about themselves with the colonial head at the top of it, and then exerting some greater influence on them and things like that. Is that worthwhile really to continue?
Well, I think let me start by saying that the Chogo meeting is coming at the right time. The pandemic has stultified the scheduled meeting for the past 2 years. It is coming at the right time because if you look at the global financial system, you find that the COVID-19 has created a cascading economic paralysis, especially in African countries. The global financial GDP is about 90 trillion US dollars. Today, the world is awash in debt to the tune of $260 trillion. Now you can see the disparity in terms of the challenges that the global financial system is facing, and African countries are hard hit. If you recall, prior to this particular meeting, the last G20 meeting, the ministers of finance of African countries made a submission to G20 that there is a need for a debt relief package to the tune of about $150 billion if Africa is to come out of the financial crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Nigeria under President Buhari has done very well. If you recall the billions of naira that the government has doled out in order to ensure that the country does not go into deep recession. So Chogam is coming at the right time. The issue of corruption in the African countries, if you look at the index, is still alarming. Over $50 billion is losing out of the African countries annually. There's a need to arrest that. The issue of gender equality, women empowerment, these are critical issues that requires a comprehensive strategic partnership. Again, Chogam would have provided a platform for the African countries really to again look at the issue of strengthening their multilateral engagement and bilateral engagement. And it is heartwarming that President Buhari was able on the satellite meetings to meet with the UK, United Kingdom Prime Minister, Jamaica, the Commonwealth Secretary General, in order to bring to the fore some of the challenges that Nigeria is facing, and in order to see how he can strengthen cooperation at the bilateral and even multilateral levels so that the challenges that African countries are facing could be addressed. So in a nutshell, I think Chogam is coming at the right time in view of the complex and multifaceted challenges that African countries are facing, which are far-reaching, requiring a comprehensive strategic partnership in order to deal with the challenges so that at least the crisis that is facing Africa could be mitigated. Today, it is still very worrisome that over 300 million Africans are still hungry. As you know, the president has launched a program to get 100 million Nigerians out of poverty, and I believe that could be achieved, but it requires a robust funding. In terms of electricity in Africa, you still have about 250 million people that are living without electricity. In Nigeria, my state, Borno State, for over 1 year, there has been no electricity there. Well, that is courtesy of the insurgents. And efforts have been done. But we cannot achieve much without an intensive collaboration with other organizations like what has happened now in Chogom, and of course partnership with other regional and international bodies, so that we can get out of the doldrums that Nigeria is facing. Yes.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Danladi. We'll come back to you. Once again, let's bring in Femi Additional. What, in your opinion, were the major takeaways for Nigeria at what obviously was President Buhari's valedictory attendance at Chogom?
Yes, and he actually mentioned that in one of his speeches, that it was his final attendance at Chogom. But talking of takeaways, the fact that Nigeria was there was very important. If Commonwealth countries were gathering like that, the leadership of about 54 countries were meeting, the fact that Nigeria is there, very significant. Nigeria must stand up to be counted at places like that. And then you also find that the issues that Nigeria has are almost African issues. Some of them are even global issues. You talk of banditry, you talk of insurgency, you talk of economic depression, all those issues.
Climate
change particularly. All those issues are international in nature. So there is no way that you will solve those issues without collaboration. You see that the theme of the meeting itself is determining a common future. So it's very important. Any country that will resolve its issues and resolve them conclusively will not be an island. In fact, the world does not permit anybody to be an island again. So it was very important Nigeria was there. It was important that those issues that plague and ail our country were put on an international platform, and they could be discussed, and the future could be charted. So the Chogom was very important for Nigeria.
Yeah, really, let me hang it so wide with you again. Talking about the takeaways. Yes. The president was at the Genocide Memorial, and there he specifically, sent a message to Nigerians that we should be more tolerant.
Yes.
More tolerant, really. What informed that message, and what really was it that he saw at the memorial, really, that made us maybe to look at it very well, and then think about the genocide that happened in Rwanda sometimes?
Yes, it is said that an estimated 1 million people died during the genocide. That particular site we went to accommodated 250,000 dead. 250,000. There are many of such memorials around the country. So in that particular one, 250,000 people died. And you could see in bold relief the things that happened, because it was like a historical pictorial excursion from one side to the other, How Rwanda was before colonial rule, under monarchy, how they were won, and all the fissures that eventually snowballed into genocide were not there under monarchical rule. How colonial rule came and the division became emphasized. There had been killings from 50s, 60s, 70s. It was just that the one in 1994 was the one that attracted global attention because of its enormity. Therefore, as a Nigerian going through that, you can't but have a sense of deja vu. I've seen this before. You see it in things that happen in our country. And then you ask yourself, can it get to this level in our country? It may as well get there unless we are careful. That's why after that, when Mr. President laid a wreath, he said Nigerians must learn to tolerate one another. And it's very important. Today, Rwanda does not mention where you come from again. when you are filling forms, whether you are Hutu or Tutsi or Twa, is no longer there. Rwandan is what they all feel. We are all Rwandans. We know that doesn't happen in our country. Here, ethnicity is the order of the day, and it's now even more emphasized than ever before. And those are things that kill a country. It almost killed Rwanda. So Nigeria must learn, take a cue from what happened to that country, and be careful.
All right. Thank you, Femi. I recall 3 years ago when it was the 25th anniversary of the Rwanda genocide. We had a conversation on that subject matter, and a number of guests were with us, including diplomatic staff from the Rwandan High Commission here in Abuja, and it was pretty touching to recount what happened before and during that particular genocide. But how much of the message of the president will penetrate back home? I think it's a tall order. It's one of the, well, let me not say tall order. It's one of the challenges that we will have to keep, we're dealing with, and saying, look, let the message percolate down. Nadabo, are you with me? Because as Femi said, everywhere you turn now is religion, everywhere you turn is ethnicity, and so on and so forth. Back again to Dr. Osahon Nabulele. Dr. Osahon Nabulele, let's, you participated in the People's Forum at Chogo. Again, what for you were the takeaways? And just by the way, from a medical point of view, because there is a sense in which the coronavirus pandemic tended to be a frame around this year's summit, the CHOGM. Well, coronavirus was responsible for the postponement from 2020 to 2022. But looking at some of the visuals from that summit, it tended to give me some concern and also some relief. I mean, during the photo sessions, people were shaking hands. There were no face masks on. You couldn't have done this 2 years ago. So from a medical point of view, what's going on? Is it that COVID has evaporated and the CHOGM is free and then everyone in the Commonwealth is now all right? Dr. Nabulele.
Well, thank you very much, my senior brother. Thank you very much for that question. First is to say that COVID is not gone. COVID is still around. But the whole issue of the massive efforts at vaccination and creation of herd immunity is what seems to have given lots of people that confidence to go around without face masks in terms of reducing the restrictions. But it's not that COVID is gone. In fact, just yesterday, someone close to me over here in Brighton came down with COVID-19. So it's not over. But those safety precautions still need to be undertaken at individual and, of course, collective levels. But I think what has given people the confidence is the fact that you have had your vaccination, you've had your booster dose. But again, in some countries, they still insist on the use of face masks. But in some other countries, some of those restrictions have been relaxed because of their efforts at massive vaccination. UK, for instance, had a very massive effort at vaccinating its people, unlike in Africa, where the vaccination rate is still less than 15%. And indeed, in the entire Commonwealth, we still have lots of people unvaccinated in terms of the primary vaccination. So that is not to, of course, throw your guards off. But coming to the issues critical question that you raised, as to the high points of the People's Forum, which, of course, I participated in. I must say it was a gathering of people from different parts of the Commonwealth to, of course, look at the issues of health, issues of governance, of course, the issue of the freedom of the press, even, in terms of the media, and, of course, climate issues and all of that. I think one point that came out from that People's Forum was the issue of, or the need for greater accountability. Accountability in terms of how do we get governments who come together at the Commonwealth level in terms of CHOGM to be a bit more committed to what they signed on to. How do we track the commitments that have been so, espoused and articulated by the various heads of government? And I suggested at that People's Forum, in fact, on the first day of the People's Forum, that there was perhaps need for us to have what I called a performance tracking system, so that we can have some targets and have some ranking, really, of the governments in the Commonwealth. Because if you know that you are going to be ranked in terms of some indicators that have been put on ground, I'm sure a lot of countries who are really not there right now will step up their efforts, knowing that Chogom is around, will be around again in the next 2 years. And perhaps your performance level and profile will be put to question, will be put to assessment. So clearly the issue of accountability was one point that we took out from that forum as to how do we get this ranking of the performance of the various governments in the Commonwealth to make them a bit more accountable to those things they've committed to, and of course accountable to the people through good governance, pure, sincere, transparent, leadership, and of course, ensuring that they, advance projects and programs that will, of course, advance the fortunes and the well-being of the people in their various jurisdictions and countries. Again, was, like I said before, was the issue of how do we, build health system resilience in terms of how do we get governments to be, the government and other stakeholders to be a bit more, purposeful, resolved, and, focused on health system building, rather than this off and on thing, only when a pandemic breaks out or when an emergency breaks out that people begin to realize how bad their health systems are. We said, look, we must avoid this, staccato movement towards building health systems. Rather, look again at the building blocks of health systems. And the building blocks are 6 building blocks that have been advanced by the World Health Organization. How do we key into those building blocks on a more sustainable basis? For instance, the issue of leadership governance of human resource for health. I don't know if you are hearing me, the issue of human resource for health, which of course has been so highlighted as critical in driving progress in the Commonwealth. We realize that across the Commonwealth, for instance, lot of
it seems to have a challenge there with the network and then the transmission of that Zoom from the United Kingdom. But all the same, I had wanted us to really get back to UK again and then hear from Nigeria's High Commissioner in the UK, who is also joining us via Zoom. But the meantime, let's keep it at bay and then come back to the studio. We sort that out and then see what really justice we can make right here. The Femi additional. My colleague Kingsley earlier asked you about the takeaways and then from Chogum 2022. And then it's so immersive. An area you didn't really talk about is the issue of, trade and investment. Looking at the engagements of the president and his entourage, building cooperation, having links, and then having to meet donors, having to meet other countries and countries' leaders, and the rest of them trying to see how investments could be attracted to Nigeria. And of course, Africa, if possible, but Nigeria specifically. How big is that takeaway, if any?
Yeah, thank you. You would observe that over time, there has been this deliberate intention for the Commonwealth to evolve from just like a social club to an economic bloc. Our president wrote an opinion article on that earlier in the year or late last year, which was published by international media. Mm-hmm. And when the Prime Minister of Jamaica came to meet him, he referred to the article and the wholeness. He referred to it and said, yes, so far Commonwealth has been a club of leaders and like a club of people from 54 countries. But now it must transmute into an economic bloc. And that is a conscious thing now that will be done. You will see that in the president's congratulatory message to Patricia Scotland, the re-elected Secretary General. He mentioned it, that she, in the 2 years remaining for her, must consciously reposition the Commonwealth to become an economic bloc, something that will enhance business, economy, investment for all the member countries. So it's a new consciousness in Commonwealth, and I believe that with that consciousness, there will be progress in that direction.
Okay, Femi, thank you very much. Ambassador Tunji Ishola, we understand you're still there with us via Zoom from the United Kingdom. Now, I'd like you to clarify what you said earlier. You did say that it was a significant resolution that the heads of government were able to reach a consensus on the status of the Secretary General. I wasn't quite clear when you were saying something about being the head of state or otherwise. I know Nigeria's Chief Emeka Onyoku was at some point Secretary General of the Commonwealth. So you may need to clarify that. Then the other issue, of course, relates to the push for the transformation of the Commonwealth from being, if you may, a gentleman's club to an economic club whose voice can be heard and should be heard at critical moments in world affairs.
Well, thank you very much. I did say that Commonwealth Convention requires Secretary General to be appointed or elected through a consensus basis. And the first round of the meeting presented some kind of challenges. The head of state and government had to go for lunch and reconvene. But what is important is at the end of the day, there was a consensus. And that is very significant in an assembly of 54 heads of nations. So that's what I mean. It wasn't an easy thing. And there was no doubt challenges and tension earlier on. Because the issue, the practical issue there was that technically the tenure of the Secretary General, did it end in 2020 or will it end in 2022? And they ended up building consensus that yes, she will be reappointed and retrospectively from 2020, meaning that the normal tenure of 4 years, she will have an exit in 2024. That was the consensus that was built. But the unique thing is coming to that consensus wasn't an easy task because opinions were sharply divided. That's what I'm saying. We must give it to the heads that at the end of the day, they came to a consensus. That's number one. Number two, I've had, there was one of the Commonwealth program I chaired at the Secretariat, and I laid emphasis that the way the Commonwealth is, we should salute the founders of that foundation. Yes, they have done the right thing to bring people together, particularly, largely, former British colonies and people of who share the same historical antecedent and have a kind of relationship with Britain. But with Brexit and the need for a global Britain has been espoused in United Kingdom now, the Commonwealth has to, move away from where it is now. But we must also realize that this is a multilateral organization. Reforms in multilateral organizations are not things that come easy. It's only when you are having bilateral relations that between two countries that some of these things can be sorted out. But there's also the argument that can the Secretariat self-reform itself? So all these issues will be taken up, I'm sure, at our Board of Governors meeting. We all build a consensus on the fact that we have to move forward. But the issue is how. And I'm of the opinion that various institutions will be involved. University of Cambridge, Harvard University, and some of this citadel of learning to really come up with what the Commonwealth will be. And the Board of Governors will prepare the ground along with Secretariat for the constitution of Minister of Foreign Affairs. And I'm sure by the next CHOGM, we should have some kind of reforms that will move us positively towards the direction that Commonwealth should be.
Thank you so much, Address High Commissioner to the UK. Let's come back to the studio. Ambassador Unladi, it's all about moving forward. As earlier asked you, talking about, the colonial master exerting some influence on these countries and then maintaining that strength, but all the same now being expanded, even including some countries who are not under the rule of Britain or the UK, becoming members, Togo and Gabon most recently. Moving forward, as Nigeria's High Commissioner said, and of course, which Femi Adesina alluded to, talking about transforming this very social club in Court into an economic bloc. And then, should that be expedited? One would think that the crisis in Africa and even in the world occasioned by the Ukraine-Russia war and some other global, crises would have been much lesser issue for members of this country had steps been taken much further into this very transformation. Do you think that would be a right preposition?
Well, I think if you look at the communique at the end of the Chagom meeting, I think there is a move ready to modernize the Commonwealth so that it can meet up with the 21st challenges. I think progress has been made in that direction. And as one of the panelists have said, is the issue of accountability, the issue of putting the mechanisms for evaluating the implementation of the communique, the agreement, the reaffirmation by heads of government towards solving some of these challenges. I think that will go a long way if we can be able to put, they can be able to put the mechanism and strategy to monitor the implementation. But let me just say that I think Chagom to a large extent is modernizing. Already new countries have joined, Togo and I think Gabon are now going to be new members of, so it's going to move from 54 to 56 countries. And if you look at, you see the core challenges, if you look at the cost of conflicts in Africa, the United Nations puts about almost $13 billion that is lost to various ethno-religious crises on the African continent. And ordinary one would expect that going forward, we need to have more robust Chagom that will take bold initiatives, bold decisions in addressing some of these challenges. The theme, which is quite apt, promoting the common future, anchored and innovating, transforming, and so this, we need to see that transformation. We need to see that innovation, bold initiatives, bold transformations that could really address the core challenges of African countries. Africa is not poor. If you look at the proven mineral deposit in Africa, Africa houses about 30% of all non-mineral deposits in the world. It's we Africans that are poor, not the African continent. So we need to see this bold initiative that will really harness the potential of African countries so that we can get out of the economic gagmire that has certified development in African countries. Get people out of poverty, create jobs. It's quite encouraging when you look at the communique, the commitment of African heads of government to the promotion of youth entrepreneurship, creating job opportunities, women empowerment, the promotion of good governance. Let's be seen. There should be some kind of mechanisms. I know in the past, some countries have been suspended from the Commonwealth. Nigeria was one. When Ken Saro-Wiwa was executed, Zimbabwe was one of the countries. But suspension alone perhaps will not be a good punitive measure that would keep heads of government in check to ensure that they uphold the charter of the Commonwealth so that it can have a biting teeth towards addressing challenges that are facing African countries.
All right, Ambassador Donald, thank you very much. And gentlemen, also with us via Zoom from the United Kingdom, and Femi Additional here in the Abuja studios. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
When times are tough, we know that as a mother, one thing you should never compromise on is your family's oral health, because they deserve the best. Oral-B, all-round protection. It's great value. It protects your mouth from harmful bacteria and also protects you against tooth holes and gum problems which can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your family's teeth and gives them all-round protection. So remember, protect their future. Oral-B for healthier, stronger teeth in just 1 week.
Trying our best to contain the situation, and in our operations we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities, and we've been able to also recover particularly arms and ammunition from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all, to look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Well, the housing solution we have developed is a multifaceted one. First, we have tried to lead a program to build what we think will be an acceptable and hopefully affordable housing based on surveys we did in 2015-2016 and construction that started in 2017. And that's going on in 34 states as the National Housing Program.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message from the National Orientation Agency.
Wake up the champion in your child. Give them energy to go further. Milo Active Go and the natural goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa helps wake up the champion in your child. Milo.
All right, you're welcome back. And still, Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I'm returning to Nigeria's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Ambassador Tunji Ishola. Ambassador Tunji Ishola, well, tell our viewers what is happening to the Commonwealth in terms of its expansion of membership. Now, we just had Togo, French-speaking, and Gabon also join. Earlier, you had Cameroon, you had Mozambique. Mozambique, of course, is a Lusophone country, and Rwanda itself. These were not former British colonies as the original members of the Commonwealth were. What is the attraction for this new membership by, if you may, non-English speaking countries? That's one leg of the question. And the second leg of the question, how potentially daunting is it to transform the Commonwealth into, if you may, a 21st century international institution that responds to global challenges affecting its members, that responds also to regional challenges affecting its members. I mean, we talk about terrorism, a number of Commonwealth countries are impacted. We talk about global food security arising from the Ukraine-Russian war. A number of Commonwealth countries are impacted. Climate change, they are impacted. But sometimes, I mean, people just get the impression that the Commonwealth remains a tepid organization. How daunting will it be to transform it? And then what is the attraction for non-English speaking countries, those who were not colonized by Britain in the past, seeking to gain membership of the Commonwealth?
Thank you very much. I think the attraction is the fact that Commonwealth is about the only multilateral organization that try to pull along the small states. Don't forget that we have a lot of some of these members of Commonwealth, Dominican Republic with 70,000 people, Grenada with 112,000 people, and so on and so forth. It is one organization that really pay attention to list the developed countries. That's number one. Number two is the fact that the Commonwealth, the Commonwealth is an institution that gives sense of belonging to all heads. You know, sovereignty of states are really respected, and even the small states, like I said, there's a whole lot of program for small states in the Commonwealth, and emphasis is placed on that. You don't find that in many organizations of the world. Even at some of the multilateral organizations, we talk of the least developed countries, you know, but we cannot really see programs that are really addressing the needs of those countries. The small states get a lot of attention from Commonwealth. I believe that the small states and the less developed states get a lot of attention. So it's like the world that we are living now, you know, everybody has to be pulled along, you know, because if you have a pandemic coming from one of these small states, it will spread to the whole world. The world can only be safe when we are all our brother's keeper. I believe that will have been the motivation, and I won't be surprised if we still have more non-Anglophone countries coming. That's number one. Now going to the question of reforming and repositioning the Commonwealth. Don't forget that many countries of the world belong to 1, 2, 3, 4 multilateral institutions. For example, in UK here, we have the African Union heads, you know, which is also another pressure group. Some members of Commonwealth belong to G7. Some members of government belong to non-aligned movement. All members of Commonwealth belong to the UN. You know, so I see Commonwealth as a kind of institution that can be positioned as a bloc in the United Nations to address the issues concerning Commonwealth countries. But if we really look at it as the Commonwealth becoming an institution as pattern like UN, I don't think that should be the objective. The objective is to be able to aggregate the position, look at happenings in the world, look at the issues of funding, because many of the programs affecting many countries relate to funding. And the present Secretary General, with due respect to her, is laying a lot of focus on that, making sure that this Commonwealth will be driven more through public-private partnership, unlike many multilateral institutions that are just basically. You achieve a lot when you bring the multi-layers of synergy between the public sector, as represented by various governments, the private sectors, because a lot of it have corporate social responsibility. And I can see there was this small market initiative in the sideline at Commonwealth. They want to get involved in governance. And we also have the civil society. For example, Intel provided $10 million to train Commonwealth youths all over the countries of Commonwealth on digital training. So all these kind of things are what we have to look at. That governance in the present millennium should move from government alone. It should also involve the critical stakeholders like the private sector and the public sector. Those are my thoughts, but experts will still have to look on how to reposition the Commonwealth for the constitution of our leaders.
Thank you so much, Tunji Shola. Let's hear from Dr. Osahon Bulele. Doctor, let's get your views on this issue, so that an expansion or expoundment of your idea earlier on put forward when you talked about performance tracking by members, which in a way you're referring to peer review, if I may, of members, so that we can stop, rather move away from just talking to walking the talk. In this regard, how do you mean, what exactly do you think should be done by members in order to see to it that this transformation we're talking about, this movement against the background of the of the theme for this year, which is delivering a common future, innovating and transforming, this transformation of a thing?
Thank you very much. I think clearly what I meant by performance ranking is for the Commonwealth to have some indicators for assessing performance. That is done even at the level of the World Health Organization, at the level of the United Nations. And so the Commonwealth cannot be an exception. Otherwise, you're just going to be, sitting around a barber's chair, moving around, and no advancement, serious advancement. People must be able to track progress. And so when we have a Commonwealth People's Forum, for instance, Commonwealth Heads of Government People's Forum, there should be another interface between the people and the government, and then everybody looking at these indicators and see how everybody has fared, both the people and the government. And then at the end of the day, be able to rank the performance. There is nothing wrong in ranking the performance of governments so that everybody has some level of aspiration and are inspired to make progress along those lines. But where everybody just sits around the conversation table, 2 yearly programs, you come around, everybody is talking about almost the same thing, and then nobody is talking really about how do we get some level of accountability in terms of the commitments made to some of these declarations. So I had advanced this need for us to have some performance tracking and even encourage those that are really performing. Why those who are not really performing according to those indicators are perhaps reminded about their obligations, and also, empowered, especially the small countries, to be able to live up to those aspirations and targets. So I think that would be a major stride in convincing people that the Commonwealth really is an organization that means well for the common people in the Commonwealth. Otherwise, right now, I think the confidence is not really high in terms of what the people perceive of the Commonwealth as to how it really advances their fortunes, advances their well-being and others. So we need to build in a lot of confidence factors to get the people to realize that this is not just about sitting around conversation tables. It's really about them. It's really about performance. It's really about accountability, transparency, and of course, exercising their rights. So that is what I meant by, building on ground a mechanism to be able to track performance beyond this issue of sitting around conversation tables.
Dr. Nabulele, let me still stay with you while your Zoom connection is clear. As president of the Commonwealth Medical Association, let's just take the field of medicine or field of health in the Commonwealth. At some point, going forward, will it be possible for the Commonwealth to say, look, as part of our repositioning, we are, say, focusing on health, and then we are setting targets. We do know that there is a wide gap between the very advanced countries who are members of the Commonwealth and then the least developed countries who are also members of the Commonwealth. So, basic issues, for instance, it could be primary healthcare, which we grapple with in Nigeria and say, okay, for member countries, this will be the minimum. and then this will be the funding, or this will be the assistance to member states or counterpart funding or otherwise. If you did this, we will also do this for you. The Commonwealth will do this for you in order to raise the health standards and reduce the burden of any particular disease. Do you get a sense of that working right now, or again, it's still a backslapping congregation?
Thank you very much for that point you raised. I must admit just now that we are in conversation with the Commonwealth Secretariat to see how the proposal by the Commonwealth Medical Association on this issue that you raised can be further strengthened, because everybody has to key in. It's not going to be a one-way traffic, so you need all stakeholders on board to, of course, even the government to even key into this new direction. So we right now, as a Commonwealth Medical Association, we are engaging the Commonwealth Secretariat to further that proposal. Everybody has confidence in what we are proposing, and the framework is already there, really. You're not going to be reinventing the wheel. The framework is already there in terms of these indicators, whether on the issue of attaining universal health coverage, what are the indices for even assessing countries moving in the direction of attaining universal health coverage, because the target is just year 2030. All countries are expected, based on what they signed on to in 2015, to have met the target for universal health coverage. But we know that COVID-19 pandemic has slowed down the progress of most countries. So that's obviously, it's very unrealistic just now. And so there's need for us to review again some of these indicators and targets, and then be able to, of course, move forward. The issue of national health legislation. There are most countries in the Commonwealth still do not have a national health legislation. I am happy as a Nigerian that we have a National Health Act, for instance. South Africa has one, and few other countries. So we have to really come together and see how we can build these indicators and make governments aware of them, key into them, and begin to track this performance. We're talking about human resource for health. We had a session as a Commonwealth Medical Association at the People's Forum, and most people for the first time saw that, look, this was a cross-cutting issue. It was not an issue even only of Africa. Even Asia, they are witnessing the same challenge of human resource for health, because it looks like most countries in Asia, Africa are just producing healthcare workers for the developed countries of the world. And this is not helping to address the disease burden in those countries. By 2030, the world will need an additional 18 million healthcare workers. And most of this need is in Africa, is in Asia, and other low-middle income countries. So we call to question the issue of how countries are adhering to the WHO Global Code of Practice for international recruitment of health personnel. That will be one of the indicators that we also assess. Are countries poaching on others deliberately, like we are seeing now from some parts of the global north, poaching deliberately on the healthcare workers or the human resource for health in the low-middle income countries? How do we get them to, of course, commit to that target or that indicator of saying, look, we have a global code of practice in terms of how you conduct ethical recruitment. How are you adhering to it? We also have an indicator to say for those countries, source countries, for instance, the low-middle income countries, including countries of Africa and some Asian countries, how are you also addressing some what we call the push factors? Are you addressing security challenges in your country? Are you addressing the issue of motivation and empowerment? Because if you look at some of the 17 resolutions signed on to recently in Chogom, at the Chogom 2022 meeting, one of the commitments they gave was that they were going to motivate, protect, and invest in human resource for health. So we can ask that question as part of the indicators. How are you, as a low-middle income country, for instance, where these healthcare workers are migrating from, how are you committing yourself to investing appropriately in human resource for health? How are you protecting them? How are you motivating them? What kind of working conditions do you have in your country? So this is a doable prescription. It is a doable project, and we're happy that the Commonwealth Secretariat just now is very, very willing to embrace this concept, and we're going to push it further beyond the session we had at the Chogom People's Forum to see how we can have some more accountability. Because at the People's Forum, one of the highlights was that people were really frustrated with these eternal conversations, and they were looking more to how to be able to hold some level of, to hold governments to account to their promises, to their commitments to the well-being and health of the people. So it is something whose time was yesterday, but it can still be done today. Thank you.
Obtainer Bulele. We're running short of time, gentlemen. Let's see what justice we can make to these facts you raise, and that will be in some maybe 60 seconds or thereabout. When we look at 2018, theme of Chogum, it's talking about the common future. And this very one was also talking about the common future with an addition by way of trying to see how the common future can be achieved through transformation, innovating, and things like that. The specifics are just very important. Climate change, women empowerment, youth, the Blue Declaration, the ocean, all these are issues that were raised and discussed at this. It seems as if the People's Forum, Ambassador Dauda, the People's Forum is taking away the shine off the main meeting of the
well, thank you very much. I think it is not, because part of the thing is connecting, and the People's Forum is to connect people, bring the business community, the governments, so that they can look at various ways and strategies in ensuring that Commonwealth asserts its responsibility. But if I will just go a little bit forward, is the fact that the Commonwealth, I think, looking at the communique that was issued, I think it is encouraging. We hope that in the future the Commonwealth will have a strong voice. The Commonwealth will have an influence on various topical world affairs. I was looking forward to a robust statement on the issue of the fight in Ukraine and Russia. I was also looking at a bold strategy towards addressing the food security, transformation of the agricultural sector. Africa imports about $34 billion worth of food from Ukraine and Russia, and as a result of this war, you can see that the surge, the inflation in food items is causing a lot of crisis around the world. Already people are on the streets in Brussels, in UK, in other parts of the world. People are already prostrating on the streets. We are lucky in Nigeria that up to now perhaps it has not reached that particular stage, but and it is our hope that the Central Bank of Nigeria, through its anchor borrower, will continue to release funds, especially during this farming season. Although we are yet to see the action of Central Bank during this rainy season, we hope that they will release the funds so that farmers will go to the farm, because the cost of rice is on the increase.
Yes, my director saying you are going beyond 60 seconds.
Thank you.
Okay, Ambassador Donald, thank you very much. I mean, a number of points to raise in terms of getting the Commonwealth to be a more energetic voice on global issues. Perhaps again, when the restructuring takes place, we'll have a Secretary General, or we'll have a Secretariat that does the kind of things that we're talking about, plus the titular head of the Commonwealth. Sometimes I think we need the Commonwealth will require that. But Femi, very quickly, when the President Muhammadu Buhari proposes the infusion of more economics into the Commonwealth, I would imagine that technology, finance, and trade will be key components of such a move. Is the Commonwealth prepared for that, or the Commonwealth members will be more comfortable in their other respective affiliations?
Well, earlier you used the word backslapping congregations. I believe the Commonwealth is evolving. One of the things that happened in Kigali was that some young people were giving awards, startups. There was a Nigerian lady. She runs a company called Salubata. And what does she do? She makes shoes from recycled plastic wastes. In fact, she came to present some of the shoes to the president. So the fact that that platform was used to recognize those people shows that something is happening. There were 200 Nigerians who won awards in area of technology. So that shows you that the Commonwealth is also veering into some other areas that will empower particularly the younger generation. I believe that voice we want for the Commonwealth will evolve.
Okay, thank you so much, Femi Adesina. Femi Adesina is a special advisor to the President of Media and Publicity. It's our pleasure being part of the discussion this morning.
Thank you.
Ambassador Dawood Danladi, Nigeria's former High Commissioner to Pakistan. It's our pleasure too.
Thank you very much.
And we must also thank Tunji Ishola, Nigeria's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, and of course Dr. Osahon Inabulele, President, Commonwealth Medical Association, and indeed the President-elect, World Medical Association. It's our pleasure being part of it.